Welcome to the Weekly Mag. Today's subject is justice. We'll talk about situations of injustice around the world with the journalists Marta, Arias and Raul Gallego. Prepare your ears to enjoy the jazzy notes of Raynald Colom's trumpet. Patricia, Escalona and Màrius Serra compete against each other on Guess What? Our fair quiz presented by Serra. All this and more on the Weekly Mag, your favorite show in English, hosted by Marta.
Hello. Today we are going to talk with two journalists and reporters who have traveled around the world and witnessed situations of deep injustice. Before that, though, let's have a look at our glossary about some words that will come up in the interview.
Our guests today are two committed journalists. They've traveled around the world to report injustice, unfair situations that are mostly neglected by mass media. If you say that something or someone is neglected, you mean they suffer from a lack of care, they are mostly overlooked or forgotten. As journalists working on areas in conflict, they've been involved in dangerous situations, but luckily there's always been a close call. A close call is a narrow escape from danger or trouble. They're not only covering conflicts, but they're also interested in analyzing the aftermath. The aftermath of an important event, such as a catastrophe or a disaster, is the situation that results from it. And before the aftermath, there must be something that causes the conflict. That is the trigger. If something triggers an event or situation, it causes it to begin to happen or exist.
She's a freelance long-distance reporter and since 2015 part of the 5W team as a copywriter and responsible for social networks. She collaborates in media such as The Guardian or Radio France Internationale. He is a video journalist who has covered different conflicts for Associated Press, Channel 4, UK or TV3. He is also a multi-awarded documentary filmmaker. Well, we have here Marta, Arias and Raul Gallego. Welcome. And let's start from the very beginning. Let's talk about your jobs. How would you describe yourselves? How would you describe your jobs, what you do? Marta.
I'm an international freelance reporter who try to cover different issues that are happening all over the world by mostly writing, but I also try to do some radio. Okay.
Photos?
No, I don't take pictures. I rely very much on people Raul is most video, but he's also a photographer. But try to focus on the writing because I have a lot of respect for photojournalists and I think I'm not able to do their job.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And yourself, Raul?
Well, I'm a journalist that choose to use video to tell stories, no? And also photo, but I've been always focusing more on video and TV, and now lately also on documentaries. And I've been always very interested in TV because I mean photo and text I think it's great, but how things are changing, I think with video you can reach more the audience, and especially now with online video, I think it has a lot of possibilities to reach audience and also interact with the audience.
You're now back in Barcelona, but you've been almost all around the world and you've covered a lot of areas in conflict, right?
Yeah, well I left Barcelona in 2003 when I was working in TV3, I went to the bureau that TV3 had in Jerusalem. That was the time during the Second Intifada and Iraq War. And I stayed there almost 3 years, and then AP offered me the job to work as a journalist for them, and they moved me to Bangkok, where is the main office for Asia, and from there I was working all over the world, and it was was kind of a dream job, and also very unexpected, because I never thought I was gonna spend so many years living in Asia and traveling all over. Then I worked for Channel 4, and now it's a year and a half that I'm back here working independently.
Okay, as a freelance. All right, Marta, we have here this book, or you call it a magazine, I believe. We're talking about the 5W project, Crónicas de Larga Distancia. So can you tell us a little bit about it? It's very impressive, I must say, that both the text and the photos.
Yes, 5W is a project launched in 2015 by a group of journalists and photojournalists and a web developer. And it was launched to try to cover the issues we think are neglected by mostly by traditional media all over the world. And as you said, we try to put the focus both on the narrative aspect, on the long-form text, but also on the pictures, on the photojournalism. We think they both formats can go together, they shall go together because there are different ways of telling stories. And if we combine them, the narrative is stronger. We publish a long-form piece on the website every week, a podcast every month, and also once a year we publish this, which, as you say, is a magazine because it's published every year.
Hardcover,
It's hardcover, 2,050 pages, so it's more like a book. Actually, at the beginning, this is already the fourth issue. But with the first one, when we called the bookshops to tell them we are going to launch this new magazine, it's going to arrive to you very soon, some of them told us, yes, I have received something, but this is not a magazine, this is a book, so I don't really know what are you talking about.
Okay.
But it's this.
I read here that it's about mega cities, threatened places, climate change, forgotten corners around the world. So how do you choose the places you talk about?
Every year, every paper number, we try to choose a topic which is going to be the line all over the number, all over the issue. For example, the first one was, the name was After the War, which was talking about the aftermath of conflict, what happened in those places where there is still a conflict, or maybe the conflict has already finished, but we are talking about a peace process or recovery.
Okay.
So we try to focus on that. The second one was the loss of the world, who rules the world, who is in charge, who is trying to change some rules, things like that. The third one was about fun, how do we have fun all over the world? And this one is about how do we live in the world. So once we have chosen this topic, we try to have some balance in the geographic aspect. We try to have not all the countries obviously, but to cover all the areas. Yes, to have them
all the continents, no?
Yes, exactly. So we can create a big picture as complete as possible of the situation in all the different countries.
I see. Well, in your case, Raul, like you said, you're a freelance filmmaker at the moment. You have received various awards for your documentaries, and I believe that the last one is called Women, Drugs and Kathmandu. Let's see the trailer or parts of the trailer.
You know Kathmandu. What to do, I don't know.
Well, it's obviously a tough subject. Why did you choose this place in particular?
Well, it was a moment in my career that I wanted to go back to the reasons why I wanted to be a journalist. And so the idea was to find a story that nobody cared, that was totally forgotten, and also to make a project, a documentary in that case, that was connected with a way to not just go and tell the story, but also that could make a real impact, or at least try to make a real impact on the ground. And it was just by coincidence I went for Channel 4 to cover the earthquake in 2014, and then I discovered this reality of the woman drug users in Nepal that are totally forgotten. So it's a taboo for society. And then I decided to make was a documentary that also was supporting a crowdfunding project. So we managed to provide, I think it was like to 16 women, free rehab treatment with the crowdfunding. And so that was the idea, no? To find this balance that the journalism is not, oh, I'm doing this to tell the story, to point how bad is something, or to create empathy, or to make a living, but also to try to make a difference, even it's smaller.
Okay. In your case, Marta, which unfair situation, because today's topic is justice and injustice, which situation that you've seen around the world has shocked you or impressed you in a particular way?
I think, and actually it was one of the most recent I have covered, and it was in Colombia last year, in a moment when international media was talking about the peace process in Colombia. I traveled there with Ana Suriñac, which is one of the co-founders of the magazine. Also, she's a photojournalist and the photo editor. And we did a reporting piece on a particular area in the south of the country where people was being attacked by the people who was trying to get power after the FARC were gone. So we focused on one particular woman who was killed because she tried to defend her land and her people and her family. And she was not political, she was not an activist, she was not trying to make a change, as a manner of saying, but she just wanted to live in peace and defend what belonged to her, and she was killed.
Mm-hmm. And affected by an unfair or injustice, no?
Exactly. She was affected by something that was happening around her, and even if she didn't want to take an active part.
Okay. So is the story reflected in this magazine, or you have it on your website? Where can we read it?
That particular one was part of a special feature we did on the website, because we publish different things in the paper, on the paper and on the website.
All right. So what's the website again?
The website is Revista 5W with number and letter.com.
Okay.
So there we publish different feature, long-form photojournalism, and this particular story, which was called La Finada Agua, was published there, and yes, you can read it there.
Okay. Raul, tell us also about a particular situation that impressed you or shocked you in a very deep way.
There is so many but always what touch you more is like when you see like kids suffering, like in conflicts, in zones that are like in poverty. For example, I remember to go to in Kenya. There is one of the worst slums in Kenya called Matare, and it was very shocking the conditions of people living there. Like was like living in a garbage dump, and people was living there among all and kids but especially I think when you see kids suffering because of the war, that has nothing to do with them. That's I think the most hard, or what you feel more bad.
Do you have kids yourself?
No. But always the people that is more defenseless, or as she said, like has nothing to do with the conflict and they are trapped. That's when you think how unfair, and when you think also, but that also gives, at least myself, gives a strength to keep doing this job and to try to tell the stories of these people.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, we are listening to really interesting first-hand stories from journalists Marta, Arias and Raul Gallego. And now let's stop our conversation here for a minute, because today we're focusing on justice, a topic with lots of specific vocabulary. No worries though, because our teacher, Helen Armstrong from International House Barcelona, is here to help you learn and understand a few justice terms. Pay attention.
Hi. Vocabulary connected to law and justice can be a little bit tricky, and you see it all the time on the news. So I'm going to help you out today by telling you a story about my friend and her neighbour, John. My friend was suing John because he had broken the fence that divided their gardens. And to sue someone means to accuse someone formally to the police. And you normally want some compensation back. And they reached an agreement. John was going to pay for everything. And the police had to come round to inspect. But then they found some blood on the fence, which was then connected to the disappearance of a man a few months before. John was then arrested and charged with murder by the attorney or the prosecutor. Now, when you press charges against someone, you are charged with a crime. So John was now charged with murder, and he was now the defendant in the law courts. Defendant is a bit of a false friend because you are accused of something. Now, you're represented by a lawyer, and lawyer is a term for anyone that practices law. And there are lots of different words connected to this. For example, attorney, prosecutor, and in Britain we have solicitors and barristers. Now, it's their job to produce evidence, which is what helps us prove someone's innocence or guilt. And my friend was also called as a witness, and so she had to tell the court what she had seen one night, which was John acting very suspiciously, running across her garden late at night, carrying some carrier bags and a spade. So the jury reached a verdict, guilty. John was found guilty of murder, and he'd also buried the body of this man in my friend's garden. So she's leaving the house as soon as possible. So if anyone knows of anyone that wants to buy a house, I know one going very cheap. Bye.
Don't miss our mystery question. Will it be fair and just? Well, there is only one way to know.
We are having an exciting chat with experienced journalists Raul Gallego and Marta Arias about injustice and the way it's covered by the media. And now let's give this interview a cinematic touch with our collaborator, Tony Garcia. Tony,
how are you?
Welcome. I'm great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, conflict zones in cinema. What have you brought to us?
I have to say, this is not my area of expertise, so they are the experts. So I just chose 3 films. I think they are good, but you know, Hollywood always tries to glamorize these kind of things, and then happens when it happens. So I'm going to start with one of my favorite, which is The Year of Living Dangerously.
Good one.
Good one, good one.
I love this one. I think it's pretty good. It's a long time before we knew that that Mel Gibson was a freaking idiot. So yeah, he didn't talk too much back at that time, so that was good. And then was Linda Hunt doing, you know, she won the Oscar for her character. So one of my favorite. It's based in Indonesia, and I think it's based on I read on Indonesia at the time. I think it's pretty good in a very difficult, you know, country. Mm-hmm. So do you like this one?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good one. I would say it's like one of the movies that are actually not bad, portraying
Yes.
actually what happened, the situation, and even the work, how journalists work. It's actually quite good.
Do you think in general the degree of realism of these movies is, you know, accurate or?
I mean, it depends on the movie. Some movies are pretty good. Some is like, oh my God, has nothing to do with the reality, you know? Mm-hmm. But it happened, at least myself, like several times that you see movies, some is like, oh, actually it's pretty good, you know? I'm just waiting to see which one is the second one, to see if I can.
But when you go to a theater and see the movie, you can avoid the fact that you are doing this yourself.
I mean, actually, like sometimes I avoid. When I see the trailer, it's like, I don't want to see this movie because or I'm going to get upset, or it's like, oh my God, it's like. But I think in all the fields happen.
Raul and Marta, I'm quite interested in this. What's your daily life like?
For when I was working in AP, that was like when I was doing more war coverage. My flat, my base was just the place where I was just waiting to go to the next assignment. And so you just take a rest, and then again you travel. So it's you end up. I always explain. You've seen the movie Up in the Air about the, you know. So it's the same situation that when you go to the plane is where you feel home. You know, it's like, oh, this is home. It's very strange, and you end up sleeping better when you are on the field in the war than when you are at home, you know? Mm-hmm. And sometimes happen also this thing that you wake up in the morning, it's like, wait, I'm in a hotel, I'm at home, where I am, no? That is more like the daily life, you know?
Has this happened to you, Marta, as well?
I haven't done conflict per se. I'm more focused on the aftermath, the post-conflict. So actually, I think it involves a lot of waiting. You are constantly waiting to get access to some place, to get to earn the trust from people. You talk a lot to people in order to start getting to know the place, the area, the people obviously.
Anyway, any risky, dangerous situations you've found yourselves in?
Honestly, a lot, but I always say this is part of the job. I don't like usually this kind of journalists that explain more about how I was suffering, how dangerous it was for me, you know, and there was a bomb. I mean, this is part of the job. I have a friend that his father was a doctor in emergency rooms here in Catalonia, and he was saying, like, look, my father every day was saving lives, you know, and he never went back home explaining.
Son, come here.
Or you know, or taking a selfie in the emergency room, or arriving home and saying, putting on Facebook, today I save a life, or, you know, and that's a little sometimes what I don't like about journalism. There is too much ego, or people explain more how dangerous it was for them than actually telling the stories. And if you want to cover war, that is what is going to happen. A lot of times, I mean, you will have a lot of close calls. It happened a lot of times, but that's part of the job.
I agree completely, and actually I would like to add that we are lucky enough to go and came back. But there are journalists, local journalists, who stay there and live there and have to continue seeing some people and getting in touch with some people that can become way more dangerous for them.
I'm going to take it from there to mention the second film, which is The Killing Fields. Which I think is a masterpiece. I think it's probably the best.
It's the best. I think it's one of the best and more accurate.
The best movie about, you know, war correspondence and what happens in these countries. And it's set in the first year of Pol Pot in Cambodia. And I have to say that Sam Waterston, which is the main actor, is incredible. But I have to say the name right. Hein Ngor, which is the Cambodian actor, which he was not an actor. He was actually in Cambodia when Pol Pot came to power, and he was tortured, and he stayed to remain behind to explain the world what was happening there. So The Killing Fields for me is like, I remember the first time I saw the movie and I was, wow, I don't want to be a war correspondent.
That for me was the opposite. It's one of these movies that, oh wow, I want to do this job. But I love that movie because it portrays very well sometimes the relationship between the producer, fixer, translator, and the journalist. And I felt it was very close because I work a lot in Myanmar during junta military time, and also like the post-junta, how it was changing. And I had a very similar relationship with the producer fixer that I work always there with. His name is Mau Mau. And it was very similar situation. I would say, look, we're just going to do something that you feel comfortable. I want to do this interview with these people that are activists against the government. And he was like, oh my God, you're going to create me trouble. It's like, okay, let's not going to do the story. And then he was silent. He's like, no, Raul, let's do it. We need to do it. Let's do it, you know? So it's very similar.
Sometimes you leave people behind. I mean, not you, but it's another part of the job.
I mean, the producer, the fixer, the people that you interview. That's why it's important always when you are doing like war coverage or like features about situations that are conflict, or you always have to make sure that your story will not put in trouble that person, you know? Like I always explain, look, are you sure you want to say this? Are you sure you want to? Because this is the repercussions, you know, if you talk about this, and
it can have consequences.
And it's going to be online, and it's very important to make sure that what are the consequences.
You mentioned online, so I'm curious to find out how the modern technology, how internet has changed your job.
I'm a big fan of the internet, social media, digital tools. When I started working, when I started reporting, they were already there. It was the beginning of Facebook, Twitter, and all these social media. So for me, they have become very natural all over my working life. And I have found a way to use them as tools, as useful tools for my job. I am aware that they can be dangerous, And they also can trigger some ego that we were talking about before, this need of some people to show more their life than the work they are doing.
And
I
show
think
off
this is,
also.
yes, to show off, exactly. But I'm I'm a big supporter of this technology. The ability, for example, in the magazine, in 5W, we are 9 co-founders, and we are already in our 4th year. We haven't seen each other all together in the same place yet, because we are all in different places. So we are alive thanks to technology. If there were no WhatsApp or social media or email, we wouldn't be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant.
I will not extend, but for me it's the same. I love it. Just few examples, like when I started to cover stories, and for TV you needed a satellite track or to find like a feed point. Now with a mobile phone or with a satellite, a small phone, you can send images from everywhere. I don't know, like in Libya war, I was shooting in the front line, drive 1 kilometer back to be safe, sending the images, bloop, and come back. Now that's awesome. Also, that is giving more chances to the local journalists to cover and to tell their own story. That's great. And yeah, I think there is more positive aspects than negative aspects. And I think especially in breaking news now, the stories, the images that tell the story is always like the ones of people there, Then you have to tell the story properly, But I think it's more positive, and also plus it gives the chance to independent journalism to reach everywhere and to ask for subscribers. So that's also another positive aspect, how you see like how new independent media that don't depend on advertisement from from big companies, from governments, from banks. That then they could be pushed to don't talk about this, don't talk about that. So internet can help truly independent media to grow and appear.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
Yes.
And I believe you have a third film.
Yes, the third one is A Private War. It's a story of Raynald Colom. I think it's a great movie. And it's about the story of this journalist. He was killed in 2012 by the Syrian regime, so they say. They were found guilty. And she was a very brave woman. It's difficult to understand, how a person, a human being, can be so brave. She lost an eye. She came back. She was stubborn. I love the story. And Rosamund Pike, who is the actress playing the character, she's absolutely amazing. Palm punches. I think it's a great movie.
Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it yet, but
Not yet.
I'm really looking forward to it because I really like the work of Raynald Colom. I have a book of not all of them, but a lot of her writing, which is called on the front line, sorry. And I'm really looking forward to it.
She was fearless. I like that. She was.
Yes.
She can be pushed. You cannot tell her no, don't do that, because she's gonna do it.
Well, we are discovering many things about journalism and injustice today. Now it's time for a 3-minute break. We'll be right back with Marc, Broderick and the mystery question.
Today, Patricia, Escalona and Màrius Serra go through Sergi Cervera's whimsical questions about justice. Will there be fair play? Don't miss it.
Welcome back. We have talked with journalists Marta, Arias and Raul Gallego about injustice situations around the world, and Tony Garcia has been reminding us of famous films about conflicts. And now let's welcome Marc, Broderick for the mystery question. Marc, hello.
How's it going? I think Tony missed out on the Avengers. No, that was also a great conflict situation.
I saw it yesterday.
No, I'm kidding. And here I have some injustice questions for the journalists.
Let's see.
Okay, so in here we have some questions if you want to grab one. Okay, open it up and read it.
Yeah, I'm scared.
Yeah, go for it. And you, Mr. Gallego, the Galician.
Okay.
Tony, it's your chance as well. Go for it.
No.
Come on,
Okay.
come on.
Okay.
You can have a go.
Will do.
All right,
Will
so
do. Let's
Marta, right? You
yeah.
open it up, have a read, tell us what's on it, and give the best answer, the most truthful answer that you can.
If you didn't have to work, what would you do with all your time?
Ah, good question.
I will be a reporter, I think.
You would still be a reporter?
Yes.
Why?
Because I have actually tried to do other things in previous phases of my life, and I always come back.
To being a reporter. So you wouldn't sit around and paint or do yoga or Reiki or things like this, you know?
No, if I do yoga, I think I will break myself or something. So I probably will still report for free, I guess, but I will report.
Mr. Gallego.
That's it.
Let's see what it says.
Oh, when did you first kiss? What's this? What has to do with the? What has to do with the?
Was it in a war zone?
And
was it
in a war?
In a war,
I'm
exactly.
very happy with my
like that
question.
typical picture, no?
In a war.
It was more tense than in a war zone, for sure. Yeah, I was more nervous than covering a war. When I was 16, yeah.
When you were 16, that was pretty old, huh? What were you doing up until then?
I was a very shy man, you know.
Okay.
The war
can you give us some more information, like the setting?
No, it's not necessary.
Classified. Classified information.
Teddy bears don't count, huh?
Well, I'm sorry for Marc's questions anyway.
Mr.
Raul.
Garcia.
Oh yes,
from
yes,
Farmer
great.
Town.
Another great question from Marc. Something forbidden you would like to do if the consequences didn't matter?
Oh yes.
Kill you.
I was about to say, don't tell me that, please.
Kill you. I would like to kill you.
Come on, you can give a better answer to that. You can get in line. There's a whole list of people who want to
Burn
kill
the
me.
Congress.
Burn the Congress. Which
Yes.
one?
Both. The Catalan one and the Spanish one.
Okay, get rid of the whole lot of them.
Yes.
No consequences.
No consequences.
Very good. Okay.
Thank you.
I'll accept that.
Okay, well, a serious question for you before you leave. Tell me and tell us all about your projects. You have any projects, new projects you're working on at the moment?
Well, on June, I'm supposed to go to Indonesia to do a story about rangers that are protecting the tigers. So that's my immediate project. I'm working also on a book about the Tibetan Lama, plus looking for the next documentary that I will get involved. So that's the next thing.
I have a question, sorry, just about that. Tigers, which in Java, no? The ones that is Sumatran tiger? Sumatran tiger,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
no, I wasn't sure. Okay,
Sumatra,
wow, that's pretty interesting.
No, for sure,
Amazing.
will be very interesting.
Wow.
Looking forward to go, will be a very cool story.
And I'm going to Sierra Leone anytime soon with Ana Suriñac, the photographer I told you about before, because we are working on a long-term project about home birth in different countries of the world. So we have done Colombia, we have work in Catalonia also, and next step is going to be Sierra Leone. Mothers and children die very soon because of mortality, because of home birth aspect. So we want to put them all together and show it like in a big picture.
Nice. Okay, very interesting. Wow, tigers and birds.
exciting.
You guys have exciting lives. Tony,
Tigers and
me
birds.
and you suck compared to those two.
I just go to the movies, man.
Well, your life is too normal, no? But what is normal nowadays? What is normal in these countries that you visit? But this is a topic for another program, I guess.
Very different. What's normal there than here, yeah.
Well, Marta, Arias, Raul Gallego, thank you so much for coming to the program. Thank you, Tony. Until
Thanks to
next
you.
time.
Thank you.
And Marc, I'll see you in a bit with
See you later.
Matthew.
Yep.
Well, now before our Guess What quiz, a language tip. Justice is a universal value and everyone invokes it one time or another. Therefore, it's an endless source of idioms and sayings. The very word justice appears in a number of phrases. Check it out with our teacher Tim Wari from International House, Barcelona.
Hi again. So, today we've got some expressions related to justice. The first one is to do something justice or to do yourself justice. What this expression means is to give a good representation of yourself. So imagine that you're a really small football club and you're playing in the cup against one of the best teams in the country, and you play the match and you lose, but you try really, really hard, you make a really big effort, and you can be proud of how hard you tried. You can say, we did ourselves justice. There's another expression we use in an informal way, and it is guilty as charged. Okay? This is one that means you admit to something that someone has accused you of. So imagine your friend gets home, and the cake that he left on the side has completely disappeared, it's all gone, and he says to you, hey, did you eat the cake? And you say, sorry, guilty as charged. Now, sometimes you might be accused of a crime, and you might need to clear your name. This means to prove that it wasn't you that committed the crime. So maybe you're going to go and investigate the situation and prove that it was someone else and not you that did it, and you clear your name. Sometimes we do bad things or we commit crimes, and we get off scot-free. This is great. This means nobody caught us, and there's no punishment to get off scot-free. But then at other times, we can be caught red-handed. This means that you are caught in the act of committing a crime or doing something bad. So maybe your friend catches you just as you've got the cake in your hand and all around your mouth. He's like, hey, I caught you red-handed. And in these situations, sometimes the best thing to do is to come clean. To come clean just means to confess that you did it and it was you. In other situations, we often turn a blind eye to bad behavior. This means that we just ignore it. We pretend that we don't see it. Now, I know that I've done it as a teacher sometimes. If two students in the corner are not paying attention and maybe behaving a little bit badly, I might choose to turn a blind eye and pretend that I don't see what they're doing, because I've got the rest of them in front of me, all participating fine. So, those are our expressions about justice. Try them out this week.
Where would the love story between an English boy and a Catalan girl begin? Obviously, in Scotland. Don't miss Love in Translation.
If there is something that's meant to be fair, that's a quiz show like our Guess What? And let's welcome our tireless contestants, Patricia, Escalona and Màrius Serra. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. And also let's say hello to the judge of our quiz, Sergi Cervera, who not always abides by the rules, Sergi.
Guilty as charged, Marcella. You know I always try to be funny and fair, but fun goes first. Today we are going to test Patricia and Màrius on rules and justice. Patricia, pointing at you. First, let's warm up with some witnesses about cheating and punishment. What's the first one?
Actually, I'm from Dubai. We came to see Barca's match. I lied to my friend. I told him that I booked a ticket for the match. And suddenly, when we came to Barca, we didn't find any ticket. So he was angry.
So this guy talks his friend into coming all the way from Dubai to see a Barca football match with no tickets. How did the story end? A. They finally found tickets, paying 3 times their price. B. They didn't find any tickets and the two of them went to El Tibidabo. It's an option. It's always a good one. And C. His friend flew back to Dubai and left him alone. What do you feel?
They're from Dubai. They probably have money. So I would say 3 times more. They paid 3 times more for the tickets.
And what's your pick, Màrius?
Well, I'm quite curious about Tibidabo, so I'll say B.
All right, so B to Màrius and A for Patricia. Let's see what the right answer is.
We saw that it tripled than online, what we should pay for it, and we paid because we need to see this match, so we booked it.
All right, she was right. They have money.
They have money, but they have missed Tibidabo.
Exactly. They lost their chance to go to El Tibidabo, which was the right answer. That should have been. All right, 1 point to Patricia and none to Màrius for now. So now for the second story about crime and punishment. First, let's hear the offense from the culprit himself.
When I was 12, I was a graffiti writer, and I was tagging on a wall, and one policeman see to me, and they called to the other policeman, and policemen take me to the car and go to my parents and explain to my parents that the guy has 12 years and is writing the walls.
All right, would you trust him? So the police caught this guy red-handed doing graffiti. How did his mother punish him? A. She made him paint the wall with 3 coats of white. B, she had him write 100 times on the wall, I won't do graffiti again. And C, she was studying art history and didn't punish him at all.
I would say A. I'll be conservative now.
Be conservative.
Then paint it 3 times in the white.
Very Tom Sawyer of you, that. I'm going to say his mother was studying art and she didn't punish him.
All right,
That's
so
it.
let's take a look.
My punishment was not too much because my mother studied history of art and think that is not be a delinquent or criminal or something like that.
All right, she's inspired today. So 2 points to Patricia.
University is a place for perversion.
I see that.
He's saying the answers that should have been, and you're saying the answers that actually were.
Yeah.
Okay, so the score is?
The score is 2 for Patricia and none for Màrius yet.
Yet, exactly.
There is a lot to win.
I'm thinking about TV double all the time.
Okay.
Let's move forward to the third and last video of the multiple choice challenge, Party at the College.
In my college, we had rules, and one rule was you're not allowed to drink alcohol or smoke. If you don't follow that rules, you can get kicked out of the school, you could get fined, bad references. I was living in the college, and the thing is I bought a bottle of champagne to celebrate my birthday with my friends. And we went to the hoods to drink it. The thing is that we got caught. Not drinking, but with the bottle of champagne.
A bit of a spoiler, and he got away with it, but how? Let's see if Patricia is as inspired as she had.
Has to do with alcohol,
exactly,
I might be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And college and party
yeah,
involved.
fine.
All right, A, they were just given a serious admonishment. B, the professor who caught them kept the secret and also kept the bottle.
Nice.
And C, he said that he had bought the champagne for his parents.
Wanna go?
No, just be intuitive.
I'm gonna say the professor who found them kept the bottle.
You trust in human in
good sense.
Exactly, in human good sense.
In humans' good sense, yeah.
Well, I would say C. Then
C.
for the parents, the parental way.
Exactly, and they bought champagne for their parents. Yeah. All right, let's see the right answer.
I said that it was my birthday, so I was kind of excited to buy a bottle of champagne for my family. So my idea was to get the bottle of champagne and just bring it to my room in the residence and keep it there until I leave.
Amazing, amazing.
Amazing, yeah.
Well done.
What about the professor?
Now she said what it should have been,
that's it.
and now you said what it simply was.
That's it.
All right.
Well, let's go over the score, which
1.2.
is 1 point for Màrius and
exactly. And 2 for Patricia.
2 points exactly for Patricia.
Well done, guys. There is a match here going on. Exactly. And now it's time for a ding bell ringing speed challenge. Ding, 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 ding. We'll try to find out how much you know about legal dramas. So we're after famous stories, be they films or novels. I will read out a clue and you ring your bell and answer correctly.
Or not.
Exactly. All right, first, a Pulitzer Award was given for slaughtering this bird.
Oh.
Patricia.
To Kill a Mockingbird.
To Kill a Mockingbird, correct. Point to Patricia. Atticus Finch, exactly.
Oh
A wonderful movie, by the way. Next, this real-life lawyer's assistant did Julia Roberts a favor.
Erin Brockovich?
Correct. Point to Patricia, that's right. Next. An Aaron Sorkin's play played in a film by Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson. Patricia?
Aaron Sorkin, A Few Good Men.
A Few Good Men, correct. Point to Patricia.
Military, love, uniforms.
I'm Aaron Sorkin.
I'm Aaron Sorkin.
I'm Aaron Sorkin.
The West
anything,
Wing.
anything.
Okay.
Next, The Most Criminal Anatomy. Màrius.
Anatomy of a crime.
Anatomy of a murder. Correct. Point to Màrius, absolutely, yeah. Next, a true story fathered this film In the Name of the Truth. Màrius.
In the name of the father?
In the name of the father, absolutely.
Irish one, yeah.
Point to Màrius. Next, Tom Hanks won his first Oscar in this film.
Philadelphia?
Philadelphia, absolutely. Yeah. I love that we have like adopting all the time. Next, Meryl Streep in this family legal drama.
Kramer versus Kramer.
Kramer versus Kramer, correct. And last but not least, an angry jury with an only dissenter.
12 Angry Men.
12 Angry Men. Job well done.
Well done. I'm impressed. Excellent, guys.
This was tough.
That was tough, right?
Not bad at all.
Hyperventilating.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So the score is 3 for Màrius and 8 for Patricia. Not bad. So now, how about a second round of a speed challenge? This time, we want you to finish idioms and phrases loosely related to law and order.
And which, of course,
he said
usual.
I said loosely. Loosely.
And as usual, they are all about Sergi.
Of course. Yeah. Is there any complaint here?
No.
Yeah, my
It's
ego
on the contrary.
my ego is quite happy about it. Yeah. I have to say that I sacrifice myself so that anyone else doesn't have to suffer the public scrutiny. So, Marta, I can feel you. I can feel the way she's looking at me.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh
So Marcella will read out the introduction, and I will do the idiom. But for the last word. All right?
All right.
So
we'll see.
Excellent. So the first one, Sergi says he always follows the rules.
Absolutely, always. I don't want to be caught by the long arm of the Màrius.
Justice.
No, incorrect.
Synonym?
Law. Ring your bell. Fast. Point to Patricia. I have to say, I'm following the rules. I'm following the law.
The second one. Indeed, as a quizmaster, Sergi follows strictly the motto of the LA Police Department.
Which is?
To serve and protect.
To serve and to protect, correct. Point to Patricia.
Why do I know these things?
Did you know this one?
No, absolutely.
Okay, I'm okay. Otherwise, I would.
I never had any relationship with LA police.
PD is for
Me either.
Patricia.
I've never set foot there. I don't know why. I see way too much television, I think.
Oh, yeah. I played a character from an LAPD.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Number three. Now, sometimes this show doesn't make Sergi justice.
Yes, that's because I am handsome, and we all know justice is blind. Correct. Should be correct, but yeah, it could be. But the right answer is blind.
4. One thing about Sergi is true. There's always something happening to him in the quiz.
If something can go wrong, it will indeed, because that's Morphe's. Patricia. Law, absolutely. Well done.
5. But don't worry, in Sergi's world, the karma will set everything right again.
Yep, let's call it poetic.
Justice.
Absolutely.
Now it's justice.
Now it's justice. Which is poetic justice again.
Yeah, poetic more than law.
More than law is higher than law.
Yeah.
Poetry is higher than law.
Yeah.
And 6 and last one, if he has to resist the act of acting on his own, even if he has to resist the act of acting on his own.
Right, because I never take the law into my own.
Take.
You go point first.
Take. That's it.
Nope.
Hands.
Point to Patricia.
Well
Job
done.
well done.
Well done, exactly.
So let's check the score. Patricia is leading with 12 points, but right after is Màrius with 5 points.
This is not poetical justice.
Don't worry, that's all about to change any second now.
All right, we have reached that point when we have to decide how many points. There we go. How many points will be at stake in the last challenge of clues. So, ta-da!
Wow.
Of course, neither Marcella nor I should interfere.
Let's say on moral grounds.
Exactly, yeah. Well, actually, no. On the grounds of having fun. As you might have guessed, your aim will be the judge of it. Each of you has to throw a Velcro ball, and the number you hit will be the amount of points you will get if you win. First, Màrius, you hold the dartboard in front of you, and Patricia has to throw the balls.
Just the three of them?
Well,
just I know.
We just trust you.
Well, okay.
Not me.
This can be dangerous, actually. I would just like.
Okay. That's why we picked that game. Okay, that means.
Okay.
50. 50.
Good.
Okay. That's it.
I've done it.
That's it. All right. So we are just have yours, and now let's see how this is gonna end. All right. And
okay.
40.
And Màrius has hit a 40.
Remember, these points will be yours if you win the challenge of clues. So where were we? Yes, we were talking of taking the law into one's own hands. So today we are after the name of a famous fictional character that takes the law into his or her own hands. So pay attention to the hints Marcella is reading out and ring your bells ging, 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 as soon as you know the answer.
Okay, ready?
Ready? Yeah.
Okay.
Here we
so
go.
this anti-hero first appeared in an action movie. This movie was inspired by the famous case of the Zodiac Killer. This character has nerves of steel, little respect for the rules, carries a magnum, and we're not talking of an ice cream. The first film success inspired 4 sequels.
Patricia.
Dirty Harry?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Exactly, Patricia. One of his most famous lines, as you know, while pointing his gun are...
Let's
go
do
ahead, make my day.
Exactly, and Dirty Harry was famous for his monologues addressed to criminals. Remember this one, and that's my acting moment.
Go.
You have got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you? Punk.
Punk.
Oh, make my day.
Make my day, exactly. Well, we have a winner today, right, Marcella?
Patricia, of course.
Absolutely. She's leading with 62 points, just 62.
5. Oh,
62 points against 5.
Oh, it's very, very close.
Very
Yeah,
close.
very
You
close.
were this close to win the game today.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, congratulations, Patricia. Anyway, here ends Guess What and begins Guess Word, the word puzzle by Màrius Serra. So, Màrius, can you remind us again what was the word for what was the clue for last week?
Yeah, last week we were in a narrow back streets to Wonderland. Well, the answer was... Alice, that's it. Because a narrow back street is an alley, so its plural is Alice, which is sounds very similar
like
to
Alice
in the Wonderland.
Mm-hmm.
But this week will be very easy.
So you're playing a tough character right now.
Yeah. Perry Mason now in the judge.
Do I feel lucky today?
Yeah. Okay. This week the clue is the longest 3-syllabical word in English of 26 letters. The longest 3-syllabical word in English. 26 letters.
Wow, 26 letters. The longest 3-syllabic word in English. Well, if that's not a challenge, I don't know what that is. I get the feeling that we'll need to keep a really open mind to crack it. But anyway, you have a week to solve it and post your solutions on our social media profile as well. Thank you, Patricia. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Màrius. Congratulations
Thank you.
as well. So I'll see you next week.
Yeah.
And it's time for a 3-minute break now, after which we'll enjoy some jazz music with Raynald Colom and watch our Love in Translation section. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Our Love in Translation section today features a couple who got married just a couple of months ago, but who have been friends for over 20 years. They are Tom from England and Elena from Catalonia, and their love story began in Edinburgh, Scotland. Don't miss it.
I'm Elena, I'm from Barcelona. My name's Tom. I'm from England. We've been together for 8 years now, and we've been married for 2 months.
We met in Edinburgh.
We were friends in Edinburgh, and I was arriving to Edinburgh, and you were leaving Edinburgh.
Yeah, we had lots of friends in common, and I used to go once a year or twice a year to visit my friends. We were friends for maybe 10 years.
We've known each other 20 years, yeah.
Yeah, we've known each other for 20 years. We've been friends for 20 years, and we've been together for 8 years.
Yeah.
And then, 8 years ago,
we got together. Well, the first step was taken by me.
I don't think so.
I think it was.
No, because I've always liked him, really. It was at the back of my mind. And one day I phoned you, say, oh, I'm here, you want to come and have dinner? And he said he couldn't come. And it was the festival, the theatre festival in Edinburgh. And then we met another day, and then...
Went for drinks, we were out with friends, and then our friends were watching concerts and things like that, and then they slowly, one by one, all sort of disappeared, and it was just me and you left, wasn't it? And we were just sort of having a good time, and I thought, oh, well, I'll just ask the lady in a gentlemanly way for a kiss. And she said no.
Because they said, we are friends. I said, oh no, we're friends. But then it was just like maybe 20 seconds after that, it's like, yes, yes, yes.
I think the thing that surprised me the most was when we first went to a cow sotada. You know, people told me we were going to buy some leeks and all the rest of it, and we went along and I was going to buy 2 or 3. We ended up buying about 2 big shopping trolleys worth of cow sots, and it took about 2 hours to make them all, and they put all this sauce on it, and just the whole sort of tradition, you know, people talking about food, talking about cow sots, just seems to be such a massive thing, whereas in Britain, if you have a barbecue, you just stick some beef burgers on them, and that's it, and you drink beer.
Having lunch and dinner a little bit earlier than I used to do. Diet, of course, is Mediterranean, of course. No, nothing to do with food, just timetables.
Cheese?
Schedule. We eat cheese here.
You are, yes, well, so.
Yeah.
British cheese.
I love British cheese, yeah.
I think here it's the personal space thing. People aren't they're not very aware of personal space. I think the football teams are so brilliant here that somehow they put all the personal space awareness into the football teams, and the rest of the population has been left without any personal space awareness, because, you know, in the swimming pool, in queues, I've always got people just sort of like right on top of me, and that's one thing, you know, we're always very careful about personal space and not getting each other's space.
And for me, when you do the washing up, the Brits don't rinse. They just do it with the soap, and they just leave things on top, and then they let it dry, and then just dry it. So I will always rinse. And when I drink, I eat. The Brits, sometimes they don't do it, so I will never adopt that. Like no drinking and not eating.
And when we go out?
When you go out.
Eating's cheating.
Eating's cheating. I don't agree with that. Okay. No?
Oh.
Fly me to the moon.
Whoops.
No.
That was a song at our wedding. Whoops.
No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. Let's come fly with me.
Okay. To what?
Toilet door.
Toilet door. When I don't stop arguing, giving excuses all the time. But this is what really makes you angry with the toilet.
Yeah, that's just funny. Yeah.
That's just funny.
If we do argue, we have to go through about 1 million different reasons, don't we? Excuses
yeah.
before Elena. You know, I can watch Elena break something, and she say it wasn't me. It's like it was the wind or something.
It wasn't my. It's never my fault. But anyway, but this makes you angry.
Yeah, it does make you angry. Yeah.
One, 2, 3. Wasn't it me? It was you. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
I don't. So that's
in my flat.
Really?
At Christmas, when it was cold and it was all the storms, we weren't sure if you were going to come or not, and then you finally arrived.
And you said I love you before I did.
Yeah.
And then for the first time.
It was all cold.
Yeah, no. I know it's super romantic when we said it to each other, but I thought it was both, or it was me.
Someone's got to say it first.
Yeah, well, anyway.
Anyway.
We love each other, so
Have you ever wondered what it would be like to live in a castle? Well, you won't have to anymore after you visit with us Riu de Bella Castle in our Home from Home section.
This prestigious trumpet player considers himself a musician since the day he was born. He has been described as the Catalan Miles Davis, and he has played in the best music clubs and jazz festivals around the world. He has just released the Barcelona session, a live recording with renowned musicians from the New York scene. Well, Raynald or Raynald, maybe I should say, Colom, thank you for coming in the first place.
Thanks for having me.
Well, you're here to talk mostly about your latest project. We mentioned before, we've got here your latest album. Tell me why Barcelona in the name? What does the city represent for you? Because you don't actually come. I mean, you live in Barcelona, but you weren't born in the city.
Exactly. I'm French born, and I moved here with my parents when I was 10 years old, so that was around 88, a long time ago. And, you know, like Barcelona is the place I grew up as a teenager. That's a place, my daughter is born in Barcelona, and Barcelona always has been the place in the world I always come back. It's kind of like the home base, even if I'm touring around.
I'm traveling
Exactly.
a lot.
So that was that moment after 7 years without doing an album under my name. I really wanted to make a tribute to this city, to this amazing city, even if people, you know, sometimes are like, Barcelona is not what it used to be, or all that kind of sour feel about Barcelona sometimes, and I really wanted to make a tribute to that beautiful city. You got art and culture and a melting pot of people from all over the world. I mean, we're doing an interview in English in Barcelona, which is pretty cool, I guess.
Well, thank you. On the album, you've got songs such as Miro, you mentioned culture before, Orange and Blue is another one, Tapias. So tell us a little bit more about this album.
Okay, I'm gonna put it that way. Imagine that you start a day in Barcelona, in the Barceloneta.
Okay.
When it's like 7 o'clock in the morning, when the weather is good and you got like that orange and blue, the sky who got that mix. And it's like a day in my Barcelona, starting there, going to see Tapias, going to see Miro, the foundation up there in Montjuic. And it kind of fades with dusk, Plaza Real, and it fades into the Raval, which is a place my grandparents were born. And they also lived the Civil War and what happens after, and I had the chance to talk a lot about that with them. So that's also part of the album. It's a tribute to all these people who fight with the times we're now, who fight really for the anti-fascism we got sadly around us. And that's also something I wanted to share, not directly, but in a way, you know, like under the sign of music. In a way, I would love people just to play the album and walk around the city. That's imagine that's a soundtrack to a movie, and based on that, so people can get their own thoughts about it.
What movie would it be?
I just wanted people to just make their own. That's a good thing about the music I play. Like, I mean, jazz music, I don't like the term, let's say, Black American music, which is the bass, but that's music made in the moment. It's freedom. It's a music based on freedom. So I want the public and the people who listen to the music to make their own conclusions. I don't want to be, you know, just like, you have to think like that, because that would be like the opposite of what I think music is and art is, which is total freedom.
I like what you said, that you don't want labels, you don't want this album or your music to be described as jazz. From what I've read, your style is very eclectic.
Yes.
and free. Critics say that it's endowed with a strong tradition of jazz music, but it fuses different styles such as hip-hop or flamenco, which you put together and you make what it is, your own music.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
I'm a really curious guy. That's what it is, you know. Like I like music. I think there is, you can say that, but that's two types of music. You got the good music and the bad music. I think it's simple like that. And I'm really curious. And we're living in a place in the world which had one of the few original music still going on, which is flamenco. And we can hear that every day going out to listen to that. So I really wanted to dig into that. So I've been for years in that. Hip hop is part of my culture, my generation. I mean, I grew up with, you know, Snoop Dogg and J. Dilla and, you know, all these people, Tribe Called Quest, all these things. So that's part of my music and my generation too. You know, classical music too. I mean, all good music, it's fine. So I think it's like if you cook and you got like a lot of ingredients and you just put them together and then finally you make your own dish. It's more or less the analogy would be that.
Excellent. What about social commitment? You claim that government should be more committed to music and to social aspects as well. You, in 2016, you gave all the benefits of your single I to Sto Mare Mortum campaign. So tell me more about your commitment with social issues.
I think as an artist, we have the obligation to explain or at least give a point of view as what's happening right now. Also, I believe we're really living now in a moment in history that's politically correct. It's there all the time. And people are kind of afraid to say what they believe. I mean, let's not forget that a friend of mine, a rapper called Valtonic, have to move to Belgium because of the lyrics he made years ago. He's supposed to go in jail here in Spain. I don't think that's something good for any society. So yeah, the commitment have to be there and really strong. I mean, if the artist start to fear about like what he's gonna make because of the repression you can have from a government, any government, that's a big something you're gonna lose about the culture. Because if an artist can you know, start like to tinkle and move a little bit or make a change in the thoughts of the everyday thought of the people, the society becomes something really flat. And it's really hard like to grow as a society if you don't have the inputs of just changing the concept. So yeah, I think the commitment should be every day, not just you know, not just for one thing or another. Every day of that, you know. And as a father, I have to do that too for my kids, because sometimes they ask you questions like, why this happened or the other thing, like what happened in the Mediterranean, why you got like more than 4,000 people dying every year trying to come in Europe and they can't get in Europe because they close the borders or they don't let boats. Of course, I got all those questions.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Well, what about upcoming gigs you've got
upcoming gigs.
planned?
So what we got, I remember, because my head sometimes is not that good. We're going to the Festival de Jazz de Cádiz, the 25th of July.
Okay.
I think the 26th we're going to Vitoria in a club called Daz. There is few more dates in August, but I don't remember, but I'm sure we're gonna come back in Barcelona between October and December because we're doing like the European leg of the tour. So it's
Sounds
gonna be
good.
Paris, London, Germany, but I'm not sure right now which places exactly.
Sounds like a busy agenda.
Hopefully.
Well, and today what are you going to play for us?
Today I'm gonna do a medley of 3 songs. The first one is gonna be the song called Miro, dedicated to John Miro. After I'm gonna do Tapies, for
Okay.
Tapies. Yeah, you know, with the titles I'm really straight. And after I'm gonna finish with a tune of mine called Centerlude.
And just by yourself, you didn't come accompanied by any musician, so you're going to play 2 instruments today?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to play 2 instruments, yeah.
Okay, piano and trumpet,
Piano and
of
trumpet,
course.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm sure we'll enjoy it very much. Thank you, Raynald, sorry.
Thanks for having me.
For coming, and good luck with all the gigs.
Thank you.
And while Raynald Colom gets ready on stage, let's get introduced to today's Home from Home section. Did you know that there are people here in Catalonia who still live in castles? This is the case of the family we're about to meet, the 6th generation living in the Ridabella castle near Poblet. Check it out.
Hi, my name is Martina Schepper. I am German, and this is Ridabella Castle, where I live. The first people who lived here were the Iberian people. We are talking 300 before Jesus, and they built just a tower, that is now our terrace, for defense. After the Iberian people, the Romans came. They rebuilt the tower and made the first floor of the castle as a Villa Romana. Then the Arian people came, and then in 1120 or so, the monastery of Poblet started to be built, and Ridabella, they rebuilt it to be just like a farm at the late 14th century, 15th century. It also became a fortified house with places for the very old monks to pass their last days here. And then 1841, it was bought by the family of my husband. They again rebuilt all what was broken and made it seem more like a castle, because they had a lot of friends in Paris. They were living in Paris and they wanted to have the Chateau d'Espagne. The first time I saw the castle, we were driving through Espluga de Francolí, and then the car in front of me stopped, and there was a friend of me waiting. Look, look, look! And I looked and I said, oh my God, it's real. This man has a castle. Actually, the house is not at all comfortable because it has a lot of space and a lot of rooms you have to check out every day. There are a lot of stairs. You are all the day long up and down. But our life quality is so good living in the nature, with the views we have, with no noises at all, that it really makes the balance to be very happy to live in this house. My favorite part definitely is the small terrace next to the Patio al Andalus, because it's the best place of the house. It's not too cold in winter times, it's not too hot in summer times. You have a beautiful view to all the natural park of Poblet. You just hear birds, and it gives me a lot of peace. There have been so many people passing through the history in this house that they have left their impression. This kind of houses, they always need that you pay attention what they need in that moment. And also the house gives you an attitude in front of life that is very special and very different than other people who live in normal houses. Your attitude, and it is because the house is talking to you all the time. I need this, I need that. What we want, the only thing is that we can leave it in the best way for the next generation. My husband is the 6th generation of owners. Our kids, we have 3. Actually, the eldest one, Peter, he's now working in the farm, making wine, and his idea is to stay here for the rest of his life. And he was sure of that since he was 10 years old. And the only thing that we want is maintain this house for another generation if it's possible, in the best way. I was in love, and I am in love with this house since the very first time. And the house gives me the sense that I belong to the house. There's something that I will do, or I'm doing, that will pass to the history, so that the house was maintained also because I left something to maintain it. Definitely, it's my life project, and it's my husband's, Pedro's, life project.
welcome back. And what about some theatre in English? We have a very interesting suggestion for you. Escapade Theatre presents its play Silence, the story of an actress struggling to make her way in Hollywood despite the advances of an evil producer. Don't miss this story set against the backdrop of the silent age of cinema, which deals with a very modern issue. Nevertheless, you can watch it until the 24th of May at the Almeria Teatre in Gracia. And it's time for the third and last language tip, which is about newspaper headlines, which can prove to be a quite tricky business. But here comes Tim Guinea with a very useful little guide which will help you understand them better. Have a look.
Have you ever found yourself reading a newspaper in English and being confused by the article's titles or headlines? Well, don't worry, it's not you. It's actually the fact that in English we use special vocabulary and words to talk about news and newspaper articles. Now, one of the first rules that we use is we don't use past tenses. Instead, we use present tense. So imagine yesterday the dog bit the man. Well, we would just say in the newspaper article, dog bites man. And it's also the same for future. You're not going to see will or going to, you're just going to see to plus infinitive. So cool language to appear. Now, we can also make things shorter by omitting the articles or leaving them out. And I'm not talking about newspaper articles, I'm talking about the and a. So imagine you have an election and the president won the election. It might say in the newspaper, president wins election. So we've got rid of the and the here. Another way that we can make things shorter and leave more things out is the verb to be as an auxiliary. So imagine we have a young celebrity child that we think is being spoiled by its stepmom. The article title would read, Young Celeb Spoiled by Stepmom. We're not taking is or was, we're taking it out there. And did you notice that I didn't say young celebrity, I said young celeb, and I didn't say stepmother, I said stepmom. That's because in newspaper articles you're going to see abbreviations and acronyms as well. And when we talk about abbreviations and acronyms, we're talking about we're trying to save space. And another way we can do that is by omitting the nouns when they're super obvious. So you're reading an article about a murder, and you might see 3 charged in relation to murder. And of course, we're talking about people, and we can leave it out because it's obvious. And newspapers were always about saving as much space as possible to put more information in. So we can replace some common verbs with some synonyms. For example, you might see the verb forbid. Well, we use the verb bar. Or you might see vow instead of promise. Or instead of saying to threaten, we say looms. So that's it from me. So I'm going to save some space now and just say bye.
Today is the International Museum Day, and we want to celebrate it by talking about museums and the habits of people who visit them both here and abroad. So let's welcome our 2 collaborators of our Here in There section, Matthew Tree and Marc Broderick. Hello. So tell me about this special day, the International Museum Day.
I haven't, and I'm not a fan of museums in general. If I travel, it's actually down on my list of things to go and see. For some reason, I'm one of those people that probably doesn't have the sophistication to appreciate a lot of the museums. Although I have been to...
It's a great way to start a section about museums.
Well, you know, that's my point. I have to be a little bit different, no, don't I always? But I have been to some of the biggest museums in the world, the Louvre, the Rijksmuseum, the St. Petersburg Winter Palace, which is the Hermitage. But honestly, I mean, the Hermitage, you're supposed to get around in like 7 days. I was there for 2 hours and I had more than enough at that stage.
Marc, please.
So culturally inept. And you, Matthew?
For me, it's churches. I never visit churches.
I think he's out of words for the moment.
Yeah, speechless.
Yeah.
No, I do occasionally visit museums, but you know, I wouldn't make a habit of it. It's not something, there are people who every weekend they feel they have to see a different exhibition and stuff like that. The last one I went to was about 4 months ago, and it was in a place I'd never been to before, but I'd recommend it just for the building. It's called the Museum of Pedralbes, and it's located in the old monastery of Pedralbes, and it's in fact a very beautiful place just to walk around, you know, even if you don't like the exhibition. But in London, when I was 14, I have this very clear memory. We didn't have art classes at school. Nobody was telling me anything about art. And I sort of felt I was missing out. And as all the galleries there are free, my dad had this little book. It was about that thick, called A Universal History of Art. You know, each chapter was 2 pages. And I went with this book to the National Gallery and just went through each chapter, looking at all the different sections, and just learned a whole lot on my own. And it was interesting because I was doing it because I wanted to, not because anybody was telling me to. So, and then I started exploring all the other free galleries in London, and just discovered that whole world. Because, like I said, I did it on my own, so it was fun.
A good thing is that the museums in England are free. No, in the UK, I mean.
The Conservative Party in the 1970s tried, you know, the way they do, to make people pay for the art galleries. And I remember they set up these things where you had to pay to get in and all that. After 3 months, they had to take it all down because nobody was going to them.
I think we don't have a great painting background like mainland Europe and Ireland anyways. I mean, we're not famous, we're not like the Renaissance artists that come from the Dutch, the Italians, the Spanish, the Catalans, the French, etc. We don't have that. So I mean, art for us, and the idea of going to a museum to see art is like a little bit like, well, why would you do that? You know, like, I guess it's changing now, but when I was growing up, I guess that was why I've never really appreciated going to a museum, maybe like you did, no? I don't know.
Are the museums free in Ireland as well?
No. No,
really?
And actually I have some very interesting information here about the top 3 places to visit, the top 3 museums in Ireland. It's kind of funny actually if you want to make a connection here. So the number 1 is the Guinness Storehouse. Okay. Number 2.
I mean, that was
go without saying. The second is Kilmainham Jail. This is where all of the leaders of the 1916 rebellion were assassinated. So you know it's a museum of failure. And the Titanic Museum in Belfast, also a museum of failure because they managed to build something that they said was unsinkable and it sank. So make of that as you wish. Alcohol and failure is what we have
Seriously,
most museums
those are the
about.
3 most visited museums.
Yeah,
wow.
The 3 and most in the island of Ireland. I included Northern Ireland because I thought that the Titanic one was funny as well.
Okay.
What about the most popular museums in Catalonia?
The 3rd most visited museum in Catalonia is the Dalí Museum. You know, Figueres is not a well-known town outside Catalonia, but a lot of people are going there just for the Dalí Museum.
Yeah.
And the 2nd one, and it's been number 2 on the list for as long as I can remember, is the Picasso Museum in Barcelona, which always has huge queues outside.
Yeah, the other day I passed by, there was hundreds of people outside.
But number 1, you can all guess, it's the Barça Museum, the Barcelona Football Club Museum, which I did actually go to. They have a thing called the Barcelona Experience in English, Barcelona Experience, and where they show you the museum, but also all the installations and all the rest of it. And I went there because there was a Czech-Catalan exchange with my kids' school, and all the Czechs wanted to go to the Barça Museum. And I, in fact, found it quite interesting because I don't follow football
surprisingly
at all. Yeah, but I found it quite interesting to see the changing rooms, for example, which are better than most people's houses, you know, in the Barça installations. They're really impressive. You know.
Okay.
Funnily, you should mention that, Matthew, because against everything that is inside of me, I'm a huge football supporter, and this week I was forced, under threat of being thrown off the show, no, I'm joking, to go to the Camp Nou, and actually my report comes from the Camp Nou this week. Me being a Real Madrid supporter, it kind of hurt my soul just a little bit.
But
anyways,
you are a professional.
I am a professional. I put on the best face I could without losing my shit, so to speak.
Okay, let's see what happens.
With over 1.7 million visitors per year and a revenue that tops over 25 million euros, this is the most popular museum in all of Catalonia. It's not Picasso and it's not Dali. No, it's the Camp Nou, cultural hub of Catalonia. Welcome. Have you ever fallen asleep in a museum or gone to a museum that you were so bored that you like kind of nodded off?
I've never stayed long enough to fall asleep, but there's been a few probably I've been tempted by, yeah.
Can you give me an example?
I've been to the Louvre in Paris and it was alright, but you just go to see the one thing and then leave again, don't you?
I don't know what the word is, but I was just like walking around like half asleep whilst everyone's like, look, and I'm like...
My husband's a history teacher and we went to the Churchill War Rooms in London, and I did a whole lap of the bottom floor and he moved about 3 centimetres, and I came back and was like, right, seriously, the shops are that way.
Probably that one.
This one here?
Yeah, I don't know, I just want to look at the page.
Other famous museums have the Thinker, the Discobulus. Here we have Kubala. The strangest thing then that you've seen inside a museum?
People sleeping as well, but not me.
The Tate Modern in London has a few wacky kind of things, like giant swings and stuff that people can actually be on, like art you can engage with. It's quite strange. So like part of the art is that you get to actually take part in it. It's kind of weird.
Everything in modern art, maybe.
There's an embalmed shark in London.
It was a mummy, but it was just weird, you know, it was mummified.
Da Vinci's perfect man, perfect Irish man.
You are visiting a museum, maybe you should be exhibited in a museum, Marc.
Absolutely.
As well.
The Museum of Modern Marc.
Madame Tussauds.
Could we move on?
Yes, maybe it's a good idea to talk about Catalan museums that you visited and Catalan museums that you would like to recommend.
I have to admit that the Dali Museum surprised me. In fact, I think it's probably the best one I've ever been to in the world. I've seen lots of them. I mean, any guy who walks around with an alligator and has this extraordinary mustache, I think I saw a picture of him walking an alligator in Paris or something, he's a freaky. He's very strange, and I loved his concept of like when you went in there, there's lots of weird things going on and his surrealism and stuff. I don't know, I really enjoyed the Dali Museum. And also like Las Ramblas is kind of like a live museum. I mean, like, come on, you've got like people there standing, like doing strange things. Like when I first arrived in Barcelona, there's people painting. You could consider it almost like a live exhibition the whole time.
That's good.
Yeah, I really like the Dali Museum. It's fabulous for me, as well as for the paintings. It's got 2 physical or 3D exhibits. One is the famous sofa done in the shape of Mae West's lips. And another one is this car with people sitting inside it, and it rains inside the car, like a really weird. I remember staring at it for minutes on end, you know, thinking that was really weird. And here are museums that I like. I quite like the Caixa Forum because it's free and it has small exhibitions which you can see in a couple of hours and stuff like that. And I've always liked the, I think Marc is going to disagree about this, the Miro Foundation has always been one of my favorites. I love the Miro Foundation. I always take visitors there. I've been there literally dozens of times, and it's also got fabulous views of the city.
Yeah. It's amazing. You don't agree?
I'm really sorry, but for me, honestly, it was the worst museum that I've ever been in. Not because it is beautiful, the building's nice. I respect him as an artist, even though he threw his paintings on fire and peed in them and whatever other weird and unusual things Miro did that they told me. I don't know is it true, but how can you appreciate this? They have this huge painting, and it's not even a painting, it's just like a white canvas with a blue dot. And there's just a load of people just staring at it like, oh, this is such an, I mean, a 3-year-old could do that. I didn't understand the brilliance of him. No, maybe as I said, I'm not intellectual enough or artistic enough to understand
Well, maybe
them.
you don't understand
probably
his
not.
art or the
No.
concept
No.
behind this painting, but that's
It
another...
was my personal opinion. I wouldn't say it to everybody
But that's
else. It was my
another
personal opinion.
program.
Yes.
We don't have
the
time
great
for
thing
that.
about Miro and why I like the pictures in the museum and everywhere else, all the other pictures I've seen, is that he's a real surrealist. He really believes it, but in a very simple way. And I remember this documentary they showed on British TV with a French presenter, and this French presenter was interviewing the guy, Joan Miró, and saying, so what is the psychological process that you go through when you paint? Like, what is going on in your mind? What is your philosophy when you start to paint? And Miró just said, he said, I pick up my brush, I put it in the paint, and then I start putting it on the canvas, and that's it. You know, and the French guy didn't know what to say, but Miró was apparently, I know people who met him by accident on the aeroplane, and he was just like anybody else, you know. And when he was working, that's a true story from someone who visited his home. When he was working in his studio, his wife would just, when they had a visitor, his wife would just shout out, Joanne, wash your hands, it's time to have supper. It was all like that. And you can't imagine that with Salvador Dali, for example.
Okay, an ordinary guy.
So he was just a regular guy with a weird sense of painting.
Yeah.
Whatever. Okay.
Well, anyway, I'm curious to find out what else happened at Camp Nou. Marc.
Well, I asked people some more interesting questions about what they would like to see in museums or what they would do in museums, you know, what kind of things they would put into museums.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
It was some
Let's
interesting
find out.
answers as well.
Let's find out what they said.
This is very deep now, philosophical. A part of your life and put it inside a museum and say, I want to keep that for all eternity. That moment or that memory. What would it be?
Children were born, yeah. Yeah, more than likely.
How many
yeah.
children have you got?
2.
So you'd have 2 moments. Or would you just choose one of them?
One of them's painting it, so just have one.
Guy downstairs. Here leaves head. Legend. That's what.
By the guy downstairs, so that we're clearing it up for our supporters, is that you would take off your cock and put it in the museum.
Your words, not mine. But well, if that's what you want, well then for my fans, I'll do it.
If you could mummify somebody and put them inside a museum, who would you put inside?
My wife.
That was brilliant.
I would see her all the time. So I'd go to that museum.
She's coming now. You have to say sweet things like this.
You better do.
Who would I mummify and throw to the museum? I'm a maths teacher, so maybe a mathematician of some description. Pythagoras, maybe.
Jonathan Eve. He's the guy in charge of Marc.
Oh, maybe Trump, we can do it. Cristiano Ronaldo, because he's really good looking.
It'll be Messi.
Why?
Actually, no, it'll be Cristiano Ronaldo so he can stop playing football. I just want Ronaldo to stop. I've had enough of him. Just stop. Mummify him. Everybody can love him as a mummy.
Oh, it would have to be Willie Pettigrew, who was Motherwell star striker, and I would mummify him and put him in the Barcelona museum because Messi is the second best player to Willie Pettigrew.
My sister. She's so annoying sometimes. My show. If you're watching this, I'm about to mummify you.
So I've asked some people to mummify people from their lives or famous people. So Marcella and Matthew, is there anybody that you would mummify and put into a museum?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Really?
Boris Johnson, Nigel Farage, Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Wow.
And Theresa May, just for jolly.
Just for the record.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you, Marcella, is there anybody you'd like to mummify and throw into a museum?
I don't think so.
That's
I leave
fair
that
enough.
to you guys.
That's fair enough.
Talking about funny
Yes.
things and funny meaning curious museums. Tell me about some strange or curious museums that you visited.
Well, actually, not that I visited, but I've actually had a little look online to get some idea of some strange things. I mean, suppose the Dali Museum would be considered a little off
well,
culture.
that will do.
So, the first one we found was the Museum of Broken Relationships in Croatia. Okay, I mean,
Nice.
that's kind of where the question came for the people on the street. I mean, like, they must have had, like, I don't know, pictures or things that, cinema stubs, or like, I never want to see that person again, and they kept their I don't know, so very strange. Also, the Hair Museum in Turkey. People collect hair, human hair. I mean, I don't have a lot on my head, neither do you, Matthew. So I think we couldn't make a donation to that one.
Well,
and the last one is the best one of the whole lot, which I actually love. It's the Cryptozoology Museum in Portland, Oregon. And do you know what they display in the Cryptozoology Museum?
Invented animals?
Invented animals like Bigfoot, like the size of my feet, like the Sasquatch.
Which we were talking about so much before we started recording.
Okay, well...
the Bigfoot. So maybe they could display me there alongside Bigfoot because of the size of my foot.
Your feet are a big issue, Mark.
I wouldn't call them an issue, but they are quite big.
Okay. Well, anyway...
no, for
Matthew,
me, just one, which upset me a bit, in fact. I took my kids to visit Pollock's Toy Museum in London, which not a lot of people know about. It's a private museum, but I think you pay 10 pence to get in. And it's two townhouses sort of jammed together. So you're just like walking around someone's private house with all these toys on display. And I was looking at these toys and I realized, oh my God, you know, can I be that old? Because these were displayed as vintage toys, and about 50% of them I personally had played with. You know, I could remember them. All my action men were in these glass cases, you know, and I came out of feeling terrible.
Well, you know, there's a toy museum in Figueras as well.
Which I've been to. In fact, it's a better museum with older toys.
For the 1800s, not the early 1900s.
Anyway, what about the strangest things you've seen in museums?
Oh, well, again, I have to draw on another story that is not particularly mine, but my grandfather, God rest his soul, he passed away about 20 years ago at this stage, but he went to Amsterdam for the first time in 1992-93 to visit his son. And, well, Amsterdam at the time was very famous because it had a very famous red light district, which my grandfather didn't know what it was because he was visiting a church, and if you know Amsterdam, it's just around the back of this big cathedral. And my uncle, in order to distract my grandfather, who was looking at all these ladies in the window, and he was like, what's going on here? He said, my uncle, very quick to quip, no? He said, oh, it's a life model museum. They're live models and they move, so it's for the people of Amsterdam that they can come and see the live models. So I thought it was a brilliant story, because if you knew my grandfather, he was so innocent, God help him. He was a policeman, he was very innocent as to what was going on. He actually believed it, right up until he passed away, the poor man. So well, if he's up there now, he probably knows what exactly was happening.
Well, I think you do deserve your own museum, Mark, or you can create one.
I did, just thank you you took the words right out of my mouth. I created one, yes, using some of the beautiful people that we interviewed in the Camp Nou Barcelona experience.
Brilliant.
So here in the biggest stadium in Europe, the most popular museum in all of Catalonia, I wish to create my own type of museum with all those beautiful people that we have interviewed today. Get an idea of the painting of their faces and maybe get them to describe in their own words what they would say about that particular painting.
Excited to be at New Camp.
I'm not good at interviews.
Gazing hopefully into the future.
Tanzania.
He loved football.
Give me money for shopping.
What a shit face.
Could you ever look so good with a serious face?
That awkward moment when someone tells you to smile.
Danny, we're finished? Yeah? I'm out of here. Sorry, wrong way.
Well, Mark, definitely should be exhibited in a museum with your own caption.
Do you want to see my face? Watch, ready? Like this?
Amazing.
And underneath...
Amazing. And the caption
yeah, well, that would be one adjective, yeah.
Like, the caption would be, I am the GOAT.
The GOAT.
The GOAT, Matthew, acronym, any ideas?
No.
Like you mean what it means in Catalan to be like a goat?
Well, actually, if you go for the old double entendre, yes, a goat can be a cabra, a little bit crazy, but also the greatest of all time. It's an acronym which means the greatest of all time.
Wow.
It's a sporting acronym that they use in British media now at the minute to
That's
compare.
why I don't know it.
And my funny face was a replica of like Cristiano Ronaldo. I don't know if you've seen that statue in Madeira, which they made a lot of fun of. So I tried to make it like this again. So, well,
In
that,
fact,
that would be my
They
my
did
way.
a second
that
version of the
explains everything.
statue. They did a second version of the statue
They
because the
did, yeah.
first one was so awful, and the second version is also
Tremendous.
ghastly.
His
yeah.
his face is more like modern art than a classic. You know, let's be honest.
Yeah, I'm very impressed.
Well, you're going to be even more impressed because I know in the other section of the show you guys do one called Guess What? Okay? So I said to finish off the section today, I'm going to do my own game. It's called True or False, or if you're really feeling up for it, we can call it Hell Yeah and Hell No. Okay? As you wish to reply, that's up to you. I know you might summon your inner American inside you and get Hell Yeah and Hell No. But
True or false will do.
True or
for
false
me.
will do. Fair enough. Okay, I was trying to add a little bit of a character to the game.
Of
So
drama.
basically, I'm going to describe a museum, okay? And you have to tell me if this museum is true or false in the sense of does it exist or not, basically. Okay? So the first one. There's a museum of contemporary art that you will find underwater. True or false, or hell yeah, or hell no?
True?
True.
True. You positive?
Yeah, don't ask
Any
me
ideas?
where.
Have you heard about it before? Well, it's in Cancun, which is in Mexico, obviously, and I don't know exactly what they show there, but if it's contemporary art, you won't find me there. Now, this one is another one in Croatia, which they seem great for the weird museums. This one is called Froggyland. Okay, Froggyland, and there's 500 stuffed frogs, all in human positions. It sounds like an amazing museum.
Yeah.
True or false?
False?
I would say hell no.
Hell no. Well, unfortunately, the answer is hell yeah, there is. It's
Really?
true, yes. Imagine Froggyland and the Museum of Broken Relationships. Croatia is your next destinations for weird museums.
Next stop, yeah.
This one's a little bit tricky. So in 2005, Banksy, this graffiti artist, he fooled British museum staff by doing like a cave painting of these cavemen pushing a trolley or a shopping cart, you know, like a Tesco or something like that. True or false?
True.
I would say no.
Hell no. Is it true? It is true. You know about this one?
Yeah,
possibly. You heard about it?
I heard about that one.
How long? It was like 2 or 3 days, no, before they realized what was going on. I
Yes.
think like 48 hours or something like that. Very slow to the take up. This one a little bit closer to home. Okay, this is the Tio Museum in Manlleu. Okay, where they have on display 150 logs, including one of them which is over 300 years old. It must be a bit rotten at this stage and doesn't give a lot of presents at Christmas. But hell yeah or hell no?
True?
True?
No, hell no.
Hell no. Damn no.
Never
There is
heard
no.
of it.
As far as I've been informed and as far as I understand, there is no Tio Museum in Manlleu or in anywhere else in Catalonia.
Well,
although it would be a great one to
yeah,
have.
exactly. It would
we
be
should
a good
definitely.
idea.
Yeah, I think I'm going to leave the Weekly Mag and set up a log museum.
No, please don't.
And the last one, the beard of Tutankhamun's mask fell off, okay, and somebody tried to repair it with glue, and they left it a little bit like off-center or off-kilter for a couple of months. Hell yeah or hell no?
Jesus Christ Almighty, no.
Jesus Christ Almighty, no. I like that one. That's almost like Irish. And you, Marcella?
No idea.
It actually is true. And it was, yes, hell yeah, it is true. And it was there for 1 year before anybody realized that Tutankhamun's mustache was a little bit off-centered.
Really?
So,
Weird.
there you go. And that concludes today's game of hell yeah and hell no, and well participated by both
Who
of
was
you.
the winner anyway?
You weren't
I
counting,
wasn't
were
really.
you?
I haven't got that far in this game. It's a process. It's a development.
It doesn't
okay?
matter anyway.
Doesn't matter.
It was
Everybody's
fun.
a winner on
it
this
was
section.
fun to participate.
Everybody's a
but
winner.
I hope we get to the stage where we have prizes and stuff, you know.
Next
Dinner
time.
for two, things like this. No?
Well, thank you, Mark.
No problem.
And thank you, Matthew.
You're
And
welcome.
here ends the Weekly Mag. Catch up with all the episodes and sections online and follow us on social networks. And don't forget to post the solution to the guess word puzzle by Màrius Serra, which is the longest trisyllabic word in English, 26 letters. Well, have a nice week and keep your English up and running.